AM 1060 WMEL. The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
Hello. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Kay Kaiser. I'm the information specialist for helping seniors of Brevard. I'm sitting in today for our president, founder, Mr. Joe Steckler. So I want to welcome you to the radio arm of helping seniors of Brevard. So if you're not familiar with us, which I think the majority of people are by now, having doing this radio show every single Thursday at 1 p.m., but our mission with helping seniors of Brevard is to improve the quality of life for seniors by providing information, which is what we're doing today, education, which is what we're doing today, and access to resources. So my job, period, is throughout the day is I take those calls, and regardless of what they're interested in looking for, it could be transportation, it could be legal, it could be financial, it could be saving money on their prescriptions, which we'll talk about today, but a large array of different things that seniors simply need help in finding, and that's what we're all about. So we try to educate by reaching out through our print, radio, television, and then do the intake for taking those calls and getting them to the right resources they're looking for. Well, one thing I want to bring to our listening audience's attention, though, today, we're not trying to compete with any agency, and there's some great agencies in Brevard County, but rather complete the equation. So we don't, somebody called me earlier this morning, what services do you offer? And I said, well, what specifically are you looking for? I need transportation to my medical appointments. And I said, well, here's some resources for you. So, well, thank you very much. So it's a matter of being able to, I've been working in the senior market for a number of years now, but being able to get them, and develop a relationship so that often my callers will say to me, I might need this as well. And so one thing leading to another, and sometimes the second thing might be even more important than the reason they called to begin with. So without further ado, let me give a shout out to the people that make this radio show possible. Our partners include Aldea Today, Barbara McIntyre, who's a home equity retirement specialist specializing in reverse mortgages. Barefoot Bay Tatler, so we're reaching into the lower section of Brevard County through that publication. Brevard Chiropractic and Injury Center, as well as Neurogenics Nerve Center of Rockledge, Dr. Bortz. We have Canadian Meds of Melbourne, which is our guest here today, Mr. Joe Pons. We have Cobblestone Real Estate, which is the Waters, Courtney and Braswell Financial Group, Ebony News Today, Ear Care, that's audiologist, Handy Pro of the Space Coast. This gal is a gal who's actually just recently got her general contractor's license, and so she specializes with her crew on home modifications to make your home safe. So to be able to stay in your home and live with dignity, but to prevent those falls or accidents. Hometown News is also a partner. In-home personal services, Kindred at Home, Levin Home Care Nurse Registry, Organized Creative Designs. Here's a lady whose background as a registered nurse decided that after being a nurse for the majority of her adult life, she wanted to be able to step in and help people get organized. So seniors, like a lot of people tend to hold on to too much stuff or can't get through their paperwork or bookkeeping and all of that above. So Carla Pickerel will come in and pick up and try to get your life in order and get you in the right direction, even if you want to downsize. So shout out to all of those that will help us and continue being on our board, our helping seniors of Brevard. With our hats off to all of you. And so without further ado, I would love to be able to introduce to our listening audience Mr. Joe Pons with Canadian Meds of Melbourne. Welcome, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Kay.
Well, Canadian Meds of Melbourne, that to a lot of people might say, wait a minute, what's that all mean? Is everything coming from Canada? So before we get into where it's all coming, because I know that's a story in itself, how did you get involved with this company, Joe Ponce?
Well, it started a little over 4 years ago. I got sick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I got sick, and most people can relate to that. And I was on the west coast of Florida, over in Citrus County,
Uh-huh.
and I was too sick to drive.
Oh,
I
my.
was too sick to drive to the local or the nearby Veterans Hospital up in Gainesville.
Wow.
Long story short, I spent 5 days in Citrus Memorial Hospital, the civilian hospital there,
Uh-huh.
and I was responsible to get all the bills together and send it over to the VA in a packet.
Mm-hmm.
And I had I won't call it an argument, but a discussion with a young lady who was responsible to make sure that I got my medicine bill. In her words, the reason why she wasn't going to give it to me was because nobody ever paid it.
What?
Yeah, nobody ever paid it. Well,
my.
after that discussion, she agreed to give it to me, and when I saw it, I understood why. After some long thinking and some due diligence, I realized that even though I was a defense contractor and I had a good job and a good salary, and the VA was going to pay for my bills, I began to think, what would it be like if I was in somebody else's shoes?
That's a good point.
If I was just your average everyday Joe or Jane citizen, if you would,
Right.
and I was sick, just to stay in the room was over $15,000.
Wow. People don't realize that a hospital stay can basically wipe them out,
Exactly.
So it's, you having been a veteran, and what service did you participate in? Which branch?
Army and Army Reserve.
Hats off to you, Joe Ponce.
Thank you very much.
We love to help our veterans out there. So, had you not been a veteran, and, let's kind of, like you said, let's put yourself in another person's shoes.
Exactly. I would very well be still paying off that bill.
Wow.
So I decided that it was time to change my career.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of helping people as a defense contractor, I was going to help people in a different way. So I teamed up with a family friend and came back to Melbourne and started Canadian Meds of Melbourne.
Okay. And Canadian Meds of Melbourne. Now, you said you started this with a friend, a family friend that you
Yes.
know, that's in what part of, you said he's also from Florida.
Yes.
So people might get a little confused with the name itself, Canadian Meds. How did your friend come up with that?
Yes. Even though we're an American and we're a veteran-owned company, Canadian Meds gives the person on the street, lets them know that the medicine itself is coming from outside the country. Our pharmacists are in Canada.
Okay, that's why. Hence
That's
the name Canadian.
Meds.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Joe Ponce, if I were to say, okay, I need, something like the purple pill, and everybody who watches TVs, I mean, you can't miss the immense amount of advertising with these pharmaceutical companies, with their trying to brand the best next thing to help this or help that, and and I think we were talking briefly before the show, Joe Ponce, the fact that pharmaceuticals have and spend and have very deep pockets when it comes to advertising.
Absolutely.
And wouldn't you also agree that they probably have some of the best lobbyists, representing them and so forth, because the amount of money in pharmaceutical. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I heard just recently there was one company that just raised the price some 400%. It was in the news compared to last year.
Yes, and that's
Wow.
and it's not unheard of. And comparatively speaking, when people ask us about our pricing, they say, "How is it that your pricing is so low?" It's not so much that our pricing is so low; it's just that we are being charged so much.
That's a good point. And the other thing, too, the fact is that, oh, see, we're just seeing something on the screen here now. And I don't know if I can pronounce this correctly.
That's epinephrine. That's the company that makes the epinephrine allergic. They're for people that are allergic, and you can inject those into your skin.
Oh, yes, that's been on the news a lot lately.
They went up 600%. Hey, by the way, while I'm on the air with you here, Kay, I've never met you before until just a few minutes ago, and I found out that we're from the same part of Ohio, Dayton, Ohio.
You bet.
And I kept thinking, where have I heard the name Kay Kaiser before? And I graduated from Kaiser High School in Dayton, Ohio. And that's what we were just talking before we went on the air for all of our listeners.
Right.
And it's a real pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You too, Joe.
Well,
Yes, thank you, Wayne.
we've got Wayne West behind on the control today, and thank you for putting your 2 cents in there. It just goes to show you it's a small world.
Well,
isn't
you just got to say hi to a fellow Buckeye. I mean, my
Yeah.
dad. I remember my dad, who was from Tennessee. He always had something to say about Ohio. He called us Buckeyes, worthless nut. That's his opinion.
Well, we had another joke from the people crossing over from Cincinnati, from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Reading, writing, and the road to Dayton.
That's right. And we always said if you live in Dayton and you cross the river over into Covington, Newport, you came back with an accent.
Yeah, that's about right. Well, thanks, Wayne West, for putting their 2 cents in there.
problem.
It's a pleasure to have you being on the air with us today.
Yeah.
I was telling Joe Pons that prior to going on the show, I said, let's just have fun with this today.
Yeah.
Because I think that for listening, people who are in their car or in their home listening to this program, we try our best to try to get that education and information out to you. And what Joe Pons is saying here today about Canadian Meds of Melbourne, I think will really, really surprise you. But before we go any further, Joe Pons, how can people get a hold of you?
The easiest way is just to pick up the phone.
And that
that's
number is?
321-574-6976.
Okay, let's say it one more time here for him.
It's 321-574-6976.
Okay, excellent. And like everything else, too, you might get your voice message, so by all means, leave a message.
Yes, please.
Okay.
The fact is that, particularly this time of year, so many folks are getting into the donut hole. And, I do things mainly by appointment. So please leave a message. I will get back to you. I will call you back. Your call is very important. Wayne brought up the perfect example. We've got this big thing going on about the EpiPens.
Yeah.
$600 a piece.
That's
It's
amazing.
amazing. It's amazing. And it's, this is something that's absolutely necessary for those who need it. I mean, there's no getting around it. They have to have these pens.
Right.
Word on the grapevine, the same company who manufactures them has come out with a generic product that's half the price. Well, we've had these EpiPens for $125.
Wait, 125 versus $600, Joe Pons?
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Same pen,
Wow.
same manufacturer. And the fact is that, again, what we run into is it's the same factor. It's not so much that we have prices so low. It's just that we're being charged so much.
And they're getting away with it.
Absolutely.
So they're using that money to promote and more and more and
Yes.
more. And their profit margin has to be, what, 50, 75%?
At least.
At least.
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
Well, for those who are just tuning in, my name is Kay Kaiser. I'm sitting in for Joe Steckler today with Helping Seniors of Brevard, our radio arm of educating and informing people. Things that you really need to know more about. And even though I'm not at the office and being on the air, for anyone who is reaching out, who needs some help in finding resources, by all means, call Helping Seniors of Brevard. Our telephone number is 321-473-7770. Again, that's 473-7770. So if I'm on the phone or if I'm doing a radio show like today, leave a message, because I do return every single call. As a matter of fact, we got quite a little backup system here going. If someone leaves a message, it's not only picked up on my computer, email, Joe's computer, and our media fellow's computer. So we've got a backup no matter what. So even if somebody happens to call in the evening and I may not be in the office, I get an alert on my smartphone. So we've got you covered here. And I take great pride in the fact of bringing that to the attention, because I hear more often than not is people say they just get frustrated, they can't get through to an agency, they don't get a return call back, and it's frustrating. Either that or they are on hold forever, and they just basically give up. And it shouldn't be that way. People need to at least have a return call, because they're reaching out. They need help, Joe. So let me ask you this, Joe Pons. You're with Canadian Meds of Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily just for seniors.
Correct.
Okay, correct. So I want to justify that, because if a senior has a niece or a nephew or granddaughter who needs that pen, we were just talking pen rather, we were talking about, then what would be the first steps that you take to help that individual out?
Usually starts with a phone call.
Okay.
Even though we are Canadian Meds of Melbourne, as in Melbourne, Florida, we can help anyone within the United States. So it helps out for those who do have nieces and nephews who are in Dayton, Ohio, or Sacramento, California, or Washington, D.C.
Sure.
And it starts with that free consultation.
Okay.
What we do is we simply talk about the medication. We need 3 different things: the name of the medication, the strength or dosage, and the number of times a day that they take it.
Okay. Then instead or in lieu of going to the local pharmacist, then I assume that once you've got the paperwork and the assessment done, etc., then it's a mail order. It's given to them through the mail that they receive it. So you're saving them a trip. And that brings another point, too. With the seniors, too, I get tremendous amount of calls from people saying, I need transportation.
Yes.
So if somebody's not driving anymore and they need to get, to their pharmacist and so forth, this makes their life simpler.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because all it takes is a phone call. We go ahead and fill the prescription. Trip to the mailbox is all we need. And we can go ahead and have the prescription filled. No worries about waiting in line. No trips to the corner pharmacy.
Right.
It's all done, and it's sent directly from the factory. Fresh medication, it's all done. 1, 2, 3, just like that.
It's got to be so much easier. Not to mention the fact, and I really want to get into this, because people can save. What percentage range would you give them in ordering from you, from Canadian Meds of Melbourne, Joe Pons?
Anywhere between 60 to 90%, and that's both on brand name as well as generic products.
Wow, up to 90%?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we equate those numbers into a dollar amount for a typical, as an average, maybe?
As an average?
Yeah.
Anywhere between, let's go with $300 to $12,000 a year.
Up to $12,000 a year?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
For some of our clients, that means on the far end, they could purchase depending on the type of used car or new car, they could purchase a car every single year just in medication savings alone.
That's a good comparison, because people who are driving but having to spend all of that money on prescriptions.
Yes.
And maybe they're driving an old car, and then now it's breaking down and they need it serviced and everything. So you can say, ma'am or sir, you've complained about this car. What if I can save you that amount? you can put into a new vehicle or used vehicle that's dependable for you.
Right.
That means so much, Joe Pons.
Yes.
Well, we're listening to our guest today on Helping Seniors of Brevard is Joe Pons, and he's associated with Canadian Meds of Melbourne. And I encourage you to give him a call at, go ahead and shout that out again, Joe Pons.
321 574 6976.
All right. And by all means, as I mentioned, even with our number of calling Helping Seniors, 473-7770. Leave a message. We'll call you back. We guarantee it. And
Yes, indeed.
Joe, you always have a nice saying on your recording there. It said, why don't you share that with her? Because they're going to hear it when they call you.
Yeah, they
I
sure
love
will.
this.
They sure will. Don't have a great day. Make it a great day.
And that's all the difference in the world right there.
Yes.
You know, so people do they want to be proactive or reactive?
Correct.
You know?
It's all about attitude.
Yeah, it's all about attitude. So I love speaking with you, Joe Pons. You're a pleasure to have as a guest here today. And the fact is that there's so much more information that I want to get into in our second portion of our show today. We've got about a couple minutes left before we take our first break, but let's recap a little bit. Canadian Meds of Melbourne. You mentioned that you're not restricted to just help people in the Melbourne, Florida area, but all over the country?
Correct. Correct.
So if grandma has a niece or granddaughter in wherever, like you said, Dayton,
Right.
and they need help, then you can get that information via mail to that individual and help them save on their prescriptions too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, it can't get any simpler than that, I'll tell you. And just the idea of saving time and money is on everybody's mind these days. And when it comes to the tremendous amount of savings that you can provide one of your customers, that just makes it just all worthwhile. So we've got about a minute left here before we take a break, but I encourage you to stay tuned to Helping Seniors of Brevard, because we're going to share in our second half a lot more valuable information. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with you shortly.
All right, Kay and Joe, if we were doing a different type of radio program here, Joe, I would play some Barry White music going out here because you sound a lot like Barry White.
Thank you very much.
You can take that as a compliment, too. My name is Wayne West. We're in here and taking you right down to 1:30. This is AM 1060 WMEL. We're your 50,000-watt blowtorch of Central Florida. You can hear us all over Central Florida. We'll be right back after a check-in with news. You can call in directly at 321-241-1060 to WMEL.
The 1060 menu with Jim Botro, 4 times a day on AM 1060 WMEL.
Welcome to the second portion of Helping Seniors of Today, the radio arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard. My name is Kay Kaiser. I'm the information specialist, and I'm sitting in for our president, founder, Joe Steckler today. Stay tuned here, we've got some really information to share that if you're just tuning in, where we're going to help you save a lot of money when it comes to your prescription needs. So before we get back into our second half, I want to thank you and thank our additional partners that make this show possible. We have Riverview Senior Resort, Senior Scene Magazine. By the way, we have an 8-page newsletter in that magazine every single month, so be sure to pick that up. Seniors Helping Seniors, Dr. Lee Sheldon, Spotlight Magazine, the Eye Institute, the Fountains of Melbourne, Veterans Realty of Brevard, Vitas Innovative Hospice Care of Brevard, Watercrest Senior Living Group, which is a new place going to be opening up in October called Market Street Memory Care Residence. It's going to be really interesting to see if you can visit this place because it's unique in a lot of different things they're doing. Bill Johnson, he's a board-certified elder law attorney. Of course, WMEL AM 1060 Radio, our strong supporter to help us be here every Thursday at 1 o'clock. Wusthof Health System, and last is Zon Beachside Assisted Luxury Living. And before I go any further, I want to reintroduce Mr. Joe Pons. He is with a company called Canadian Meds of Melbourne. Welcome back, Joe.
Thank you very much, Kay.
If people just tuned into the station here, I'm going to take a cough break here a second. I need a drink of water.
Hey, that's all right. Go ahead.
Go ahead and tell people about Canadian Meds here.
Well, Canadian Meds of Melbourne is an American veteran-owned company, and we have a very simple mission. What we do is we help you save money on your prescription medications every single day. It's that simple.
And all they simply have to do is give you a call, and that telephone number is
321-574-6976.
Okay. Well, you talked a little bit about, in the first section of our radio show today, Joe Pons, the fact that people can save up to 90% on their prescriptions.
Yes.
That's just amazing. You know, I think perhaps it might be wise to inform our listening audience, too, the fact that they think that because it's got a brand name on it, that's the only one they can buy.
Right.
So
right.
explain how that whole generic system works here a little bit, and maybe even a little further information on where do all these prescriptions come from? They're not just in the U.S.
No, and that's a popular misconception. One of the foremost questions that I get when I do speaking engagements is the question of where does medicine come from? Mm-hmm. And like I said, the popular misconception is that American medicine is made for Americans by American drug companies here in America.
Okay.
And that's not true. Mm-hmm. American drug companies have factories all over the world. And what that does, what we do is we utilize our pharmacists in Canada to purchase medications, brand name medications from those factories. Mm-hmm. Providing brand name medications for our clients, having them sent directly to them, saving them, and this is on the brand name medications, significant amounts of money.
Wow.
Significant amounts of money.
Well, and again, you talked about in the first section about the fact is that, these pharmaceutical companies have very, very deep pockets, and there isn't a time I turn on TV that I don't see at least a few ads for different new medications on the market.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the, we were talking earlier about the legislation that we have here in this country.
Right.
And this particular country is the only country that has direct marketing to the consumer, which is a very unique concept where medication is actually directly marketed to the consumer. Nowhere else in the world does that happen.
Yeah, you don't hear about that in Europe or any place else in the world. I mean, the amount of money that is spent here in America with that promotion, it's just amazing.
Right. Everywhere else in the world is the doctor's responsibility to know about and prescribe medication, whereas here it's reverse.
That's amazing. We're getting some message here on the computer screen, I think, from Wayne.
Well, I was just going to ask, instead of typing it out for you,
go ahead.
When you talk about these drugs that they advertise about every 3 minutes on television, and the commercial lasts for 12 minutes,
right?
When they say ask your doctor about new blah blah blah, whatever it is, well, how do they get by with that? Because I thought a doctor it was the only person that could prescribe it. You mean you can just walk in and say, I want some of that medicine that causes about 3 days worth of side effects?
Right, and it's still only the doctor can prescribe. It's just that here, it is legal for the drug companies to advertise directly to you, and nowhere else can that happen. So that is the drug company's way of basically pushing upon the doctor to have a particular medication prescribed. So let's just put it this way. If I go to my doctor and I say I want drug XYZ, and the doctor says, well, no, I'm the doctor, and this is my recommendation. You have this condition, right, and you need drug ABC. Well, I believe that I need what I saw on TV. So I'm going to go to this doctor who's going to prescribe me this.
Right. That was my point. How do you get by with that?
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
The reason why there's the pricing is so exorbitant. It's not so much that the reason why it is because there's no law that says that it cannot be.
And the reason I bring that up, Joe, is because I watch these ads sometime when I'm attempting to watch television, and you'll see the ad that'll say, well, this drug, it'll cure your arthritis, but it'll cause pancreatic cancer. It may cause explosive diarrhea. All these
side
other
effects.
Yeah, and great. I'm going to run into the doctor's office and say, yeah, give me 2 boxes of that stuff. That's what I want. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. It's kind of a vicious cycle sometimes. Somebody gets on a prescription and then something else, you got a side effect and then you got a prescription for that. And it's kind of a vicious circle, isn't it, Joe? In some cases.
I am not a medical person, so I cannot give any legal
I understand.
medical advice.
Right.
My personal belief is that many times with exercise and proper diet,
Yep.
many of these drugs do not have to be prescribed.
That's a good point. Thank you.
And the fact is that many of these medications are, in fact, they're created to, let's just put it this way. We haven't cured very many diseases in the last few years.
Right. Yeah.
We hit a very high point in science where we were curing a lot of diseases.
Right.
And right now we're doing a fantastic job in the attempt to cure cancer and autism and a lot of other things. But let's face it, we have come out with a slew of drugs that band-aid symptoms.
That's a good word to use because it's a band-aid. It's not going to cure in many cases. It's just gonna maybe just give a little relief in this for temporarily or whatever.
Right.
I feel very, very blessed and fortunate that, knock on wood, I'm not on any prescription at this time. And, I'm concerned about, people who are on a lot of medications because it's sometimes, especially working with seniors, to be honest with you, who forget to take their proper medications.
Yes.
And then that reverses and they're set back and, that could cause some serious problems.
Right. And that's one of the things that we at Canadian Meds of Melbourne, and part of our service is that we ask that our clients be very, very specific and very honest about the medications that they take. We provide that to our pharmacists and allow them to check and make sure that not only are the medications that they're taking are being dosed correctly, but that there are no interactions. Because more than once, our pharmacists have caught medications that have been either overdosed or multiple dosings of medications, and we've been able to tell our clients, hey, look, because you're seeing more than one doctor, you may need to go ahead and talk to them and say, hey, look, these medications are interacting, or you may be suffering from a vitamin D deficiency because you're taking too much of one medication. These are things that we don't do because it's not a matter of making money or trying to get them to switch over. This is something that, unfortunately, is an everyday occurrence.
And Joe Ponce, don't you find also that sometimes maybe a senior might have a little bit of memory, loss and may not remember all the different prescriptions when they're visiting their primary physician. So the primary physician has no clue, and without looking into the finite medical background, that this person's on this and this and this and this. And so, for somebody who's a little confused or has a short-term memory situation, that's going to be difficult.
Right. And the fact of the matter is that it's the individual's health that's most important.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening. My name is Kay Kaiser, sitting with Joe Steckler here today. Our guest is Mr. Joe Pons, who is with a fantastic company called Canadian Meds of Melbourne. And we encourage you to give him a call. He will return that call for you. So, Joe, if you would, we try to mention your number as much as we can. Now, people may be on the road. They didn't get it the first couple times. So go ahead and give our listening audience that number.
Sure. It's 321-574-6976.
All right. Well, very good. Well, you had sent me a couple questions here, and I wanted to bring up one I think's kind of an interesting issue with Canadian. I wouldn't say issue, but let's put it this way: you're proactively going for physicians, and is that something new that your efforts are joining together to look at with Canadian Meds of Melbourne?
New in sort of a way that a lot of my clients have been surprised, if you would, that there is a local representation of the Canadian Meds process.
Okay.
They're pleasantly surprised because the fact is that there's someone that they can look at, they can shake hands with, that they can deal with on a very personal level,
Sure.
to save money and not have to go and visit cyberspace and take the opportunity or chance of losing their money or getting anything back that may or may not be medicine.
Right.
And they love it. And their doctors are saying simply go on the internet and buy your medicine.
That's scary, though, to me, Joe Pons. To
Yes.
somebody who's not, acclimated with the internet to begin with, and many seniors aren't. But for anybody just to have been told by their physician, just go to the internet and order that you don't know what you're getting.
Right. And some of them are being given reputable websites, which is fine.
Right.
But then reaching out and having a doctor who's actually being told, hey, you know what? There's this big guy in town, and his office is right at the corner of Hibiscus and Dairy. Here's his card, and they're loving it. They're loving it. It's like, hey,
Fantastic.
look, call this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go by Little Joe.
Yeah.
Little Joe.
Little Joe.
Little Joe. Well, you had written in there, too, that especially maybe some orthopedic surgeons and urologists.
Yes. Yes.
And why are you selecting those two fields?
Those two fields specifically, because the medications that they prescribe are they represent on the percentage the 90%.
Okay.
And unfortunately, on the urologist end, we're dealing with a very sensitive topic where unfortunately a lot of their clients are suffering, particularly with the ED, the erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about the fact that they're going in and they're paying $55, $60 a pill.
Wow.
For their medication, and their companies are able to sponsor stock cars, but they can still charge you $55 a pill.
Wow.
Or in the case of orthopedic surgeons, where a person is suffering from the inability to walk or play sports or even hold a coffee cup, but the medicine that they cost $1,100, $1,200,
Wow.
where we have it for under $200.
Back to buying that car with the money you received.
Yeah.
Good grief.
It's just one of those things where we're here and we're here to help. So spreading the word and talking to the doctors,
Right.
It's really helpful to the patients, and that's the whole idea.
Well, that's the bottom line. I mean, you're not doing it for all the money in the world and the tremendous markup on there. It just amazes me that more people don't know about Canadian Meds of Melbourne. We try our best to, get you in our newsletter, get you on the radio, get you on TV. But, I mean, this is a huge savings to folks, no matter
Absolutely.
what age they are. I think our fellow by the name of Wayne West, I'm seeing a computer kind of flashing here a little bit. It's not staying steady, but you wrote a message here. Do you want to go ahead and say that?
I wanted to say to Joe, okay, you were talking, maybe a little off topic, but you're talking about these illegal drugs and that other places sell. where you can buy them, and they need to go to somebody like you and buy the good stuff, the reputable stuff.
Right.
I have some friends, and my daughter, and other people that are in my family that work with a certain drug agency. And there was a bust made not too long ago from a site in Pakistan that was selling prescription drugs, the real stuff, and they were buying it over the internet. And people finally picked it up here in Brevard County, and they were arrested for it because they had mass quantities. They had boxes of OxyContin tablets.
Oh, geez.
They're really the Roxycontin, I
Dangerous.
think. And something else, what I've never really heard of, something called ephedrine, which I understand that's been banned here in the U.S. I think they can make methamphetamines out of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was a site out of working out of Lampur, Pakistan.
Wow.
So,
Well, and you hear it a lot on the news too, with just illegal prescription drug sales,
Lahore, Pakistan. Sorry,
and
Lahore.
it's running rapid.
Right.
It really is. So people got to be really, really careful with whom they're dealing with, and that's why we have Joe Pons as a partner with Helping Seniors of Brevard, because you're trustworthy and you're treating people right, and bottom line, you're saving them a ton of money on their prescriptions, Joe Pons.
Yep.
So if you just tuned in, my name's Kay Kaiser. Our guest today, Joe Pons with Canadian Meds of Melbourne. If you have anything that you're looking for resource-wise, be sure to call our office at 321-473-7770. And Joe, I want to put something else out there. We've got something that we're doing with Helping Seniors. We got a big car raffle.
Yes, indeed.
We got a 1992 Jaguar XJS. We are selling raffle tickets. This is a major fundraiser for Helping Seniors of Brevard. So if you would like to purchase a ticket, this baby is a beautiful ruby red. Very low mileage. I believe it's some 38,000 miles on it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Mint condition. I got to see it a couple weeks ago and got my picture taken with it. And it is just, oh boy, I'll tell you, you drive this car around town, you're going to get some notice, that's for sure. So all you need to do is call Helping Seniors of Brevard. We can get tickets to you. That number again is 473-7770. Or you can go to any of the 6 Gatto Tires and Auto Service locations, because they're all selling tickets too. So we are excited about, having a lucky winner. The drawing will be held on December 3rd. And it's something that, hey, I told this lady the other day, about it. She says, well, I don't drive. And I said, well, imagine how much this car is worth if you just turned around and sold it. So, all right. Well, Joe Pons, we're down to about a couple minutes here as we wrap up our show today. Is there anything that you would like to let our listening audience know more about in what you do?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Our pleasure.
Helping Seniors of Brevard is, just a great service, and thanks to all the sponsors who, just help keep things going. The most important thing is that your health, without your health, you can't, there's nothing else.
That's bottom line.
That's just the bottom line, and,
Yeah.
and there's no two ways about it. And, for those who, unfortunately, can't afford their medications and have stopped, please, 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 consider calling Helping Seniors of Brevard. Please consider calling Canadian Meds of Melbourne. Give us the opportunity to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have had callers, Joe Pons, tell me that I am not eating in order to pay for my prescriptions. Now, that's just really, really sad.
No.
So now, you said without your health, you're nothing. So it's very, very important, folks, to be able to get good nutrition every day and to stay on track with those prescribed medications. Don't second guess it, and if you got somebody who can put those in a pill box for you, and make sure that you're taking them properly, it's very important. But let Joe Pons with Canadian Meds save you money on those prescriptions. So I really want to thank you, Joe Pons, for being our guest on Helping Seniors radio show today.
Thank you.
And we hope that people have learned something about how much they can save, up to 90%. That's exciting. So I get excited when I hear about people being able to save money, because, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So, again, thanks to Pons for being a guest with us, and we really appreciate what you're doing, and we wish you the best of luck. And
Yes, thank you.
by all means, if anybody needs some help, call 473-7770. That's Helping Seniors of Brevard. Thanks again for being my guest, and everyone have a wonderful, make it a good day.
That's right.
All
Make it
right.
a great day. That's
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Wayne.
Oh, and thank you, Joe. And before the music starts here in about 10 seconds from now, you got a little extra time, Kay. I was adding some extra time there on purpose just to say what a pleasure it's been being on the radio with you today. Like I said earlier in the first part of your show, I'd never met you until today and realized you're from my area of Ohio,
You
from
bet.
Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
And so we come from the same stomping ground on the correct side of the Ohio River.
That's
so that's a great thing. Other people on the Kentucky side may disagree with that. But that's another story for another day.
But you know what? I'll tell you something, Wayne. They can have the winners. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I left Ohio in 1974. Never went back. Yeah. You know what the great thing about Ohio is?
What's that?
Seeing it in the rearview mirror as I leave there at a high rate of speed.
There you go.
But-
That makes sense to me.
Anyway, all right.
Sure.
Okay. Nice talking with you, and a great show. And Joe Pons, nice talking with you.
Thank you.
This
Thank
is AM 1060 WMEL. You know we are a 50,000 watt radio station here in Central Florida, which I commonly call the blowtorch of Central Florida, because I'm telling you, we have such a strong signal that we set off burglar alarms in Michigan, that far north. Just making that up, just threw that out there. Coming up on 2 o'clock here on AM 1060 WMEL.